everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today, where you boys always have something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I am your host, Nicholas Playalog.
And I'm your host, Adam Peddle, and today we're going to be looking around the MLB and taking a look at the big Carlos Correa news. Is he going to stay with the Mets? Because some teams are inquiring about him. And as well, we're going to look at other places around the MLB, such as the Texas Rangers. Are they a playoff contending team? And much, much more. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as we are posting MLB content daily. All right, let's get right into it. Carlos Correa. Now, obviously, around Christmas time, the physical came out. We don't know the information, but all we know is that the Mets, they found basically the same thing the Giants did. But it looks like they might get a deal done. Phyllis Sidnick, what's going on here?
Well, it's just kind of a comedy of errors, man. And, even though kind of prevailing wisdom seems to think that they might finish it off, we got an article right here saying that there's literal radio silence going down between both of their camps, right? It's like the Mets and Carlos Correa, they aren't even talking, and this is also after we heard a few days ago, his camp, Carlos Correa's camp, they're not budging on terms of contract.
Wow.
You know, so it's like the Mets found something in his physical that they didn't like, that the Giants obviously found as well. They want to lower the amount of money. Carlos Correa says, no, I already took a bit of a payback here to get to $315. I don't want to go any lower than that. So they're sticking at that $315 million mark. And now they're not even talking.
Yeah.
Now they're not even talking,
Yeah.
right? So at what point, at what moment do you start to ask yourself, well, you know, is Carlos Correa, like, even though it's not necessarily, like, it would be frowned upon to do it, like, can he start talking to other teams? Like, this is one of those situations where it's like, you might be able to,
You
right?
absolutely can, but, like, the word from Correa's camp, like, he wants to get the deal done with the Mets. He wants to be a Met. That's very, very well known right now, but look, my big question is, if you decide to go talk to other teams, what kind of offer are you going to get after two teams turn you away and want to offer you a lot less? My advice to Carlos Correa's camp would just be to take what the Mets, negotiate what the Mets are offering, because you might not get another offer. That's something to consider.
Well, yes and no, because apparently as well, and we got another article here saying that 3 other teams, they're interested, right? Like, this article finishes off, I think the last sentence in it basically says at least 3 teams have been in contact with Correa. Now, we don't know what that number value is.
If I'm offering, I might be lowballing at this point. Like, buddy, you like, if you are, like, actually injured or something's going on that we don't know, I'm going to be offering you not that much. So if you might need to negotiate with the billionaire in the industry, Steve Cohen, like, I gotta go with this guy.
I do tend to agree with you in that regard, but I also think too, like, from Correa's standpoint, like, you can't, like, keep going down, right?
Yeah,
it's like
you gotta settle, bro.
Like, eventually, it's got to be like, hey, we're sticking with it, and I think that's what he's doing with the 315. He's basically saying, it's like, hey guys, like, 315's the number, like, that's what I'm willing to do.
Right.
So, like, make it happen or don't. And hopefully there's another team out there. I wonder if he's actually in conversation with those other teams. And I mean, right here, we have something saying that no other teams are involved. So no one has any fucking idea what's going on.
John Morris, he said
no
on MLB
one's got
Nowhere.
any idea what's happening.
So other teams might be calling, but they're not really involved in any negotiations. That's what I believe. And yes, the holidays, that's probably why it's taking so long. But I truthfully believe, and so does John Morrissey, that he ends up being a Met. Because again, like, how much are you willing to go down that rabbit hole of, like, bouncing around all these teams? I think they get a deal done sometime soon.
Well, I'll tell you what right now, and this is just, like, a little bit off topic, but kind of, like, we're going to circle back to it at the end of this video, right? The Mets, if they don't get Carlos Correa, if they do not make this happen, right, this radio silence continues, Correa has enough, he says, screw it, I'm just going to go back to the Twins, they're going to give me 300, whatever. If that happens, I've heard rumblings, and, you know, not necessarily like, you know, proven rumblings or anything, nobody with blue check marks, but I could 1000% see the New York Mets be the team that then says, screw it, let's throw all of our trade assets at Rafael Devers and pay him the money to be our third baseman, because that's what Carlos Correa would be, right? It's like, it'd just be the exact same thing, except now we get Rafael Devers and we trade for him as well.
Could be. I mean, depending on that physical, I mean, that might be a smarter option.
Literally, though. Like, it actually might be a smarter option where it's like you get a younger guy who I think we could argue is probably better than Carlos Correa, healthier, younger. It's like all of this stuff, and it's like going to cost around the same amount of money.
Do the Mets have the trade assets? I don't know. We don't know about that.
It depends, right? It's like they'd have to be willing to do that. They do have a lot of prospects. I was actually looking at them. They're in. You guys can check it out. We posted another video, 3 insane Rafael Devers trades. They are one of them. So they have the capital. I don't know if they'd be willing to do it.
Right. All right, well, let's move on to another piece of news. Let's talk about our Toronto Blue Jays right now. Obviously, we made a bunch of moves this offseason, trading away 2 core pieces, bringing in Kevin Kiermaier, bringing in Dalton Varsho, and it appears that most of the heavy lifting is done, according to Ross Atkins on Saturday. So
off-season could be finished,
that's
guys.
it, guys. I'm kind of sad, but I'm also, okay, first of all, really quick, off-season so far, what would you grade it just off the top of your head? B, I feel,
that's just the thing that came to me right there.
It's like we didn't get better necessarily. We kind of just replaced the pieces we already had.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Honestly, how Dalton Varsho performs, I think is really going to impact things.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Chris Bassett's going to be good. I like Chris Bassett. The jury's still out on how Dalton Varsho is going to transfer over here and how he's going to do.
Absolutely.
So it is kind of it is sad to see that the heavy lifting, all of that's finished. We're not really going to be in on any other big trades, any other big guys.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of expected, right? It's we made our big trade. We sent away one of our catchers. Basically, all of the good free agents are off the board.
We're
going to talk about that afterwards. But basically, every single other good free agent is off the board. So there's not a whole lot left to do here. And looking at what we did do, right, we brought in Kevin Kiermaier, we brought in Chris Bassett. I like those moves. We traded for Dalton Varsho, that's in the trade section.
Yeah.
We did end up obviously losing Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Teoscar Hernandez, and we did lose Ross Stripling, but hey, Eric Swanson, I forgot about that guy.
Right.
That's a good piece as well. So we did stuff.
Dude, it's just replacing. We're trying to move into a different direction, a different culture shift, and a bit more focus, a bit more defense, a bit more run prevention. Now, are we done, though? Heavy lifting for sure. There's not much more to heavy lift out there that's available.
True.
But little lifts. I think that the team, and I think it's in this article right here, we are missing a couple bench bats still. And then that could be solved internally, right?
Yes.
I made a little video room about this, talking about, maybe we bring up an Arelis Martinez and get him on the bench. Maybe we bring up a Nathan Luke, seems to be a popular name being tossed around Blue Jays media right now. But you could also go out and sign another bat that's out there that won't cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, where's Tapia at,
Where's Tapia? We could easily bring Tapia back. Obviously, rotation's pretty filled, but the bullpen could also use some work, too.
100%.
There's a ton of guys that are still out there, and there's another video room coming out tomorrow about that, or actually today when this video comes out.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of options. I think that we're going to add 1 or 2 little moves, maybe a bench bat, and a bullpen piece. What do you think?
I do tend to agree with that, and I hope that we do get that done, right? There's just, little things that can be done around this team to help improve it depth-wise. It's you never know who's going to come down with that season-ending injury.
Right.
You never know who's going to struggle mightily. It's hey, maybe this Chris Bassett experiment doesn't work at all, and you got to bring somebody up. You need to have those guys in your system. However, we're going to need to do it quickly, because there are other teams out there who just do not give a fuck. They're just firing off all their bullets. One of those teams is the Texas Rangers, right? Breaking news, they just signed Nathan Eovaldi, and I'll be honest, guys, this was actually hilarious to me because it was the contract. That when you look at the contract, you gotta think to yourself, holy crap, this guy hated Boston. He did not want to be in Boston anymore, bro.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of comical, this whole team is actually kind of comical as well. Boston's comical. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. But the Texas Rangers now, they adding on someone like Nathan Eovaldi, this actually looks like a scary rotation I do not want to go through. It has depth. It's got weight to it. You got an ace. You got definitely good middle guys here, like Martin Perez, Nathan Eovaldi, Andrew Heaney if he's back to what he was doing last year. Right? It's those are solid middle of the rotation guys. And could you argue that John Gray or Jake Odorizzi could they be your 4-5? Yeah, dude, I like that 4-5 better than our 4-5. That's for sure.
That's probably true as well. And they are solid there and across the lineup. That's where they spent all their money last year. It's it's starting to look a lot more like a baseball team, and I guess that's what happens when you go and you spend like $500 million in the last 2 seasons, right? But if the Toronto Blue Jays, if we want to be snatching up bullpen guys, we're gonna have the Texas Rangers to compete with, because clearly they're out here doing the most.
And that's my one note to them is they need to improve with that bullpen. They haven't made really any big bullpen acquisitions. A lot of those guys are kind of off the board, but there's still some available for sure.
Yeah.
But does this? I want to ask you this question: does this actually kind of propel them into competitiveness? Does this give them like a chance at a wild card next year? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely it does. I mean, I'm definitely not, I wouldn't bet on it because this is going to be the first season. I haven't seen anything yet. It's like nobody has really seen them be any good. But, walking into the season, I guarantee that they're over-under. Like, Vegas is going to have it at around the 500 to maybe a little bit more than 500 mark, right? It's like it's hard to bet against a team that's got Jacob deGrom and all those other guys, right? It's like you want to see them do well, and if they all kind of mold and mesh together, then they should.
Yeah.
Their ceiling is like 92 wins. Their floor, though, could still be pretty low.
Yeah, honestly, if I were to take that bet, I think I'm still going to go with the under.
I'm going under.
Just because, look, injuries is going to be this team's biggest nightmare. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
You lose Jacob deGrom. Oh my God, your rotation changes completely. You lose
different
Marcus Semien. Okay, you're literally there's no depth to this team currently. That's the big problem with buying.
And also,
that's the big problem.
We've seen you be extremely aggressive on the free agency market. Are you that aggressive at the trade deadline?
Do you have the pieces to use for trade?
When it comes time where it's like, Nathan Eovaldi, he's hurt. We need to get somebody to fill that in. Are you going to be able to make that move? I know that Steve Cohen will. I'm not necessarily convinced that you guys are going to do that.
Yeah, I agree, man. So, I mean, I'd take the under. That's for sure. Now, last thing on this little MLB news and updates is, speaking of the Boston Red Sox, they've done a bunch of weird moves. I mean, they lost Eovaldi, they lost Rich Hill, and now they're thinking about maybe trading Chris Sale. I mean, Chris Sale's pretty removed from being elite. He's dealt with a bunch of injuries. Little off note here. Do you think that the Blue Jays would be interested in adding someone like a Chris Sale?
Oh, Jesus, man. I have no idea. Like, it all depends what they're even asking for. I also don't even know. What's Chris Sale's contract like?
Dude,
do you know about that?
It's
like,
a lot of money.
I think he's getting paid a
$20
lot of money.
to $30 million per year.
Exactly,
Nah,
right.
I
Like,
want
I
that.
just don't think that that's something that we'd be willing to take on. I don't even know if any other team is going to be willing to take that on unless Boston eats like half of it, right?
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
You're going to need to eat a large chunk of this to make it worthwhile, because right now, even though Chris Sale's ceiling is the best of the best, he's just a dart throw like anybody else.
Exactly.
It's like you're too injured for too long for me to think of you as like anything but a dart throw, and for the $20 to $30 million that you're going to cost, it ain't worth it.
And just the fact that, like, this is even a conversation. Like, what is Boston doing?
They're a mess.
For real. You can't sign Devers. You're losing all your pitchers.
Yeah.
You're going to trade away Chris Bassett, but then you're bringing in, like, weird guys.
Yeah.
Like, what is this team, man?
Well, here's the thing. Nathan Eovaldi signed for $34 million.
Yeah.
$34 million for Nathan Eovaldi. Like, that's not like a crazy amount to me, right? It's like, are you saying that Boston couldn't do that?
I don't think anybody wants to sign with Boston.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Nobody.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody wants to be there, right? So it's like, if Nathan Eovaldi was willing to take that from somewhere else, he doesn't want to stay there. Devers doesn't want to stay there.
He's already said he doesn't want to stay
Bogarts
there.
is already gone, right? It's like, this team has went from, like the scariest lineup in baseball in 2017 and like World Series winners and like really great squad to just an absolutely like burning trash can of yuckiness.
Garbage. That GM honestly needs to go.
He needs to absolutely go.
They need to fire all the managers, GM managers, everybody. Like, it's honestly kind of pathetic. I'm sorry, Red Sox fans. It's kind of sad.
And I truly believe like Boston is like Devers is not going to be with Boston in the future, and Boston might even screw it up so bad that they don't trade him, because that would be the worst.
I guarantee they're not going to trade him. I'm already marking it right here. They're not trading him.
He needs to get traded though. Like, he has to get traded.
He needs to.
You're gonna get value out of him right now. Like, you have to trade him, get some young guys, trade him to Steve Cohen. He'll pay you all of his prospects.
Absolutely, man. The last 5 years, like, I felt like I've been like, Boston needs to do this. They need to do that. They need to do that. And they just don't do it. So
they fumbled the bag extremely hard.
They fumbled the bag. But guys, let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about all this news? Do you think Carlos Correa is going to be a Met? And do you think the Texas Rangers are actually going to be a competitive ball team? You let us know in those comments down below.
Yes, please hit the like and subscribe button, guys. Also, $3 a month can be a Patreon membership. And thank you to every single one of you current Patreon members. You guys are freaking awesome.
Guys, thank you so much for watching.
And go Jays, go!